please don't tell me you've drafted already. And if you have, I hope you haven't drafted these players because the season's over. You have screwed it up. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and ask your doctor if this podcast is right for you. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_Beeble, on TikTok at redrock_Beeble, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get the season started with a big return on FanDuel Sportsbook. As a new customer, place a $5 bet and you get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we are available on all platforms, so give it a thumb up and a double bang, and all of that stuff is a great way of helping this show hit that 75K Operation 75K, which of course is a subsection, a subdivision of Operation 100K. Got more mock draft coming today. That's terrible English. Another mock draft coming today, a Points League one, and maybe another Category one. Don't know. We'll see. Probably just a Points League one coming, though, on today's show. And what we're doing here, of course, is the Do Not Draft show. And again, I will mention this multiple times through the show because people will flick in and flick out, and they will misread things that I say or mishear things that I say, and I need to be very, very clear about this. Do Not Draft is not real. It's not a thing you need to pay attention to. You need to look at this, and this is my opinion on Yahoo leagues for categories, Yahoo leagues for points, ESPN leagues for category leagues, and I can't get my fourth finger up, but let's do it that way. Fourth one is ESPN points. The guys that I see at the current rank where I go, I don't think so. Not interested. That's what it is. You can make arguments for some of them. You can't make the argument because I'll go, this is silly. Like, we're not doing that. We're not picking that player at that spot. That's the harder argument to make for some of them. But given the way that we can approach things like roto or head-to-head, builds, punts, scarcities, positional requirements, different evaluations of players. Whereas if you're at pick 60 in a points league, it might be a 6 fantasy point difference between 60 and 110. So what are we talking about? Don't get fooled into this idea that you know, or I know, that a specific player has to be in this spot. I'll say it all the time. It's like if you want to judge someone's real draft or someone's mock draft and say how good or bad it was and what a reach, none of that exists. All this stuff is about finding the right mix at the right time and moving off of guys and trades and waiver wires and making sure it all makes sense. Still, if you take any of these players, you're probably the biggest idiot I've heard of in my life, and I cannot believe you'd be that dumb. Like I said, we are here to talk about guys that you probably shouldn't draft. Guys in each round, top 10 rounds of a draft. It's a standard 12-team league using 9 category format, Yahoo standard points format, and ESPN standard points format. Guys that I look at who are ranked in that position where I go, no thanks. We're just not going to do it. I'm just not interested in taking those players at those spots. Let's start in round 1. Now, when we did the must draft player show, another show which is of course complete garbage, I didn't include round 1 because I don't really think that exists as a thing. But I do believe that do not drafts in round 1 is a thing. And I have said this basically the entire process of this fantasy basketball pre-draft situation. I'm just not going to take Joel Embiid in round 1. I'm just not going to do it. He's ranked 5th on Yahoo. He could be the second ranked player. He could be the first ranked player per game. I just am not going to take him in round 1. I do not want to buy into this player who I have drafted in the past and been pretty bullish on, but multiple knee surgeries, multiple meniscus surgeries in the same knee, which has a high rate of relapse, multiple surgeries, multiple meniscus surgeries, rushed back, played in the Olympics, and now still not ready for the regular season. Why? What's happening? Not playing in any of the preseason games. He will sit all back-to-backs. I think they will pull his minutes back a little bit. And there's just so many risks of a reversion of that knee surgery. And then you have a third one of those, and you're in real strife. So I'm just not doing it. Yes, he is awesome. Yes, he will put up big numbers. Yes, if he stays healthy, there is a chance that Joel Embiid is the number one overall player. And yes, that might be the thing that wins you your fantasy league. And if you're picking at 10 or 11, you have that opportunity. And how am I going to catch the guys at the top? All that stuff is true. And I understand that. I would rather put myself in a spot where I felt a little bit more safety in round one, understanding that variance, weird schedules, weird injuries to the top players, the teams that you think you can't catch, and you hit there in March and Jokic misses 3 games. All right, we're in. I'm on. But if I don't have him beat, I've got no hope. And I also don't know if or when he will be hurt. But I do know there are going to be missed games. And I don't think he's playing 65. And I just won't do it. And at pick 5, absolutely not. We're not sniffing that one at all. Not even close to giving it a big old inhale. As we know, well, I hope you know. If you don't know, I'm going to tell you again. Yahoo's X rank, which is when you go into a Yahoo draft room, and you go into a draft, a mock draft, a real draft, the list of players is sorted by X rank, which stands for expert, which is a culmination, wrong word, conglomeration, sort of the right word, combination is the right word, of a lot of different people's individual ranks. Yeah, Dan Titus does stuff, but then they outsource it to other people as well, and they bring it all together, and they go, here we go. And the directions that are given to them are just try and find a list of players that, or a rank of players that sort of works for categories and points leagues, which we all know doesn't work. So be aware of that. Tyrese Halliburton is ranked at 8, which for a category league, no problem. Absolutely okay with that. I think it's totally reasonable to consider Halliburton there. Last season in points leagues, he was 16th on Yahoo. So we're just not doing it. I'm just not taking Tyrese Halliburton in round 1 of a Yahoo points league. I'm not doing it. Yes, there were the hamstring problems for him last season, which did drop some of his numbers, but now we get a full season of Siakam as well. And it's not like this is a top 6 guy like he was in category leagues. He's not, so don't do it. You don't need to do it. There are other players you can take there in that first round who will work out better. If we're going to talk ESPN, and we are, the guy that's ranked 12th for category leagues for them is Chet Holmgren, which is weird to me because you could make an argument that Chet was around that mark in category leagues, but ESPN's default is 8 category. It doesn't even include turnovers. So why, in the straight 9-cat rank for Chet, will put him up at that 13-14 spot last season. His value does come from blocks. He will probably play more minutes, but I worry about blocks stagnating. I worry about rebounds. I worry about the percentages, especially the 3-point percentage, which is sky high, and then fell more down to the college numbers. I'm just not investing a first-round pick in Chet Holmgren. I'm not doing that. I'm also, if I'm in an ESPN points league, and you might think again that I criticize ESPN a lot, and I do, but they do this right. They create separate ranking lists for a default points league and for a default 8-cat league. They create separate lists, which is great. It gives us something to be able to look at and say, okay, that makes sense. Or we know that you're ranking them appropriately, and the room that you go into to do a draft, that list of pre-rankings of guys is allegedly appropriate for that format. I still don't think that having Anthony Edwards at number 10 on their points league lists makes any sense. Edwards was 27th per game in ESPN points last season. You can make an argument that Towns gone means he has to do more, but I would also argue that Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo coming back, maybe he stops that. But how much more does he do? He was already at 32 usage in 35 minutes. Maybe there's a step up in efficiency, maybe. And I'm not going to rule it out. Like, he could finish 10th this season. I just don't want to take him at 10. There's nothing that in his numbers that suggest that he will be in and around that mark. And as much as we love Ant, that doesn't feel like good fantasy process. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. You can get the season off with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Watching a game, and you got the urge, something's hit your eye, and you go, oh, I like that little opportunity there. So you open up the app, you can see the betting options, and on that same screen, instead of having to open up another app or open up another screen and having to find all the stats and that, it's not a problem. Because on that same page where the bets are, you've got the live stats, you've got the live play-by-play data as well, and you can just go in and check that all out, place your bet, and bang, you're off. Also, If you are a new customer and you go in and you place that $5 bet, you can get yourself $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Not that you can get yourself, you will get yourself $200 in bonus bets guaranteed with that $5 bet. So new customers place the $5 bet, get the $200 in bonus bets, and check it all out at FanDuel.com. And do not forget to gamble responsibly. Okay. Let's take a look now at round 2. And with some of these, I have picked players in each situation for all of them that we need to. But some of them, I'll tell you, and I'll tell you which ones they are. I don't feel super strongly about it. Because for some of the cases, I think the way that the ranks are set up makes sense and it's easily justifiable. And round 2, for Yahoo, round 2 is one of those cases. So I see Devin Booker, who's ranked at number 15 on Yahoo, and that's okay. Like, whatever, you might want to take him there. Round 2's a weird dead zone. I do believe that Booker and the other person I've got for Yahoo there is Donovan Mitchell. I believe that he might see fewer minutes. He played 36 minutes a night. Budenholzer does not like that as a strategy. So even if it's 34 or 35, God forbid 33, but I don't think he's getting 36, Devin Booker. He also probably doesn't hit 6.9 assists with Tyus Jones starting. So I just don't really think that at 15 that makes a lot of sense. I don't think it's terrible though. I think it's okay if you want to look at Booker at 15, 16, 17, 18, whatever. If you wanted to take him at the back end of round 2, that's okay. So this one, again, that is really more important of like, I don't think I want to do it at the 3rd pick of round 2. I wouldn't want to take Booker in that position. But if I am at 23 or I am at 22, then it's okay. I just think he is going to pull back a little bit. And the same goes for Don Mitchell. Don Mitchell is ranked 14th on Yahoo. I'm not sure I really love that even for category leagues, to be honest. But for points leagues, I'm out there too. And again, his numbers last season, Donnie, he averaged, 46 fantasy points per game. And 46 fantasy points was good for 11th. And you go, well, why is 14th a do not draft? Well, much the same as Booker. And this one's even more likely, is I don't think Donovan Mitchell is playing the minutes that he played last season. Because one of the first things that Kenny Atkinson said when he was hired is, yeah, we're cutting the minutes down and we're playing the bench more. Paraphrased. That's what he said. That doesn't mean that Mitchell plays 28 minutes a night. It doesn't mean that he doesn't close games. It means that instead of playing 36 minutes a night and having knee swelling problems that ruin the last 2 months of the season, he plays 33. He plays 34. Maybe he plays 32 on some nights. And that drop moves you from 11th to 20th or 22nd or whatever. Just not worth pick 14. So that's why I'm out on that. ESPN. Ja Morant, on their very specific category league only rankings, has Ja Morant at number 23. Okay. We know that Ja Morant, by traditional 9-cat rankings, or even 8-cat rankings, has never been this high. You also know that I don't care about those rankings because I think they're entirely false. And you know the premise. You know the initiation ritual you have to go through to be able to talk about those rankings to me. You have to say, I believe that DeLon Wright was better than Giannis by 60 spots. You need to be able to tell me that 3 years ago, Robert Williams was a better fantasy player than Luka Doncic. You need to be able to tell me that Paolo Banchero was a waiver wire player in 12-team leagues. You need to be able to tell me that Tobias Harris was 100 spots better than Julius Randle per game last season. You need to be able to tell me that CJ McCollum and DeAnthony Melton had the same value last... Oh, that's true, sorry. CJ McCollum and Trae Young were the same fantasy player last season. If you want to buy into a straight 9-cat ranking, right? So I don't buy those numbers. But Ja at 23 is pretty crazy. Like, he's had injury concerns through a lot of style of play. He's not a high-volume 3 guy or steals guy. His free throws were good last season, but it's so limited sample. He hasn't been that level over a continued period of time. And I like Ja. I think he's really strong in round 4. I just don't think we're doing that in round 2. And the other one is Pascal Siakam, who, again, they're very, very specific. Points league only rankings. Has Siakam 20th. Just, if you want to guess, where do you think Pascal Siakam rated in points leagues last season? Like, where would you... I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it. Where you thought Pascal might have been in ESPN points leagues last season. The answer is 41st. Right? 41st. So, while I can tell you, yeah, all right, if you want Booker in round 2, go for it for Yahoo. If you want Mitchell, fine. I, for a million reasons, cannot understand why you would look at Siakam in round 2 on an ESPN points league setting. There's no justification to me, and I would not touch it with a 1,000,000-foot pole. Let's look at round 3. Who are the guys that I hate? And this one is on Yahoo. Again, Yahoo's rankings, I think, are pretty tight in a lot of spots. Like, pretty good. I don't like that De'Aaron Fox sits at number 26. I'll explain why. We still don't know exactly how this goes during the regular season, but we have seen it so far in the preseason, is that DeMar DeRozan exists on this team now, and he will have the ball in his hands. De'Aaron Fox was already not a high assist player, so I think he might lose a little bit there. He got by last season with incredible three-point shooting and unbelievable steals. Don't have that level of confidence that stuff holds, yet he sits there at 26. That's the beginning of round 3. If you wanted to make an argument that Fox could go at 35 or 36 or 33, I'd be like, fine, do it, whatever. That is totally reasonable. But for a guy at the moment who ranks inside round 3, I'm not touching De'Aaron Fox at that spot. I don't think that is worth it at that position. If we look at their points leagues, I don't really have any thought that Lauri Markkanen at 28 makes sense. Lauri Markkanen is a very good player. Lauri Markkanen is a better category league player than points league player. Lauri Markkanen has, with signing this new contract, no ability to be traded this season. And also there is a chance to me that him signing a long-term, big initial renegotiation and extension is an implicit sort of agreement of like, you're not going to play in March and April. We're going to sit you down as we try and get a big draft pick and then we go for it the year after. So if you're playing in a head-to-head league with playoffs, which that is all points leagues, he's not going to be there. And again, that doesn't even discuss the idea that he was 37th per game in Yahoo points last season. He's good. Like, he's really good. 23 and 8, 2 assists. No defensive stats. Don't matter. 28 for Yahoo points leagues is just too high. Do not touch him in round 3, in my opinion. Paolo Banchero ranks 33rd on ESPN for category leagues. I do believe that Paolo has a chance to improve. I detailed this in a show with Dan Besbris. I think last week we talked about if Paolo hits 0.4 field goals extra per game, so 2 extra field goals every 5 games on the same amount of attempts, his field goals become 48%. I believe he hit 80% from the line over the last 25 games of last season. I don't really expect steals and blocks to ever become super good for him. But the percentage stuff, while it can be bad, it doesn't take much to flip. And he already improved his field goal percentage by, I think, 1.3 field goal percentage points from year 1 to year 2. But at 33 category rank, like, you've just knocked the top off it. Where do I get any value in that? If Paolo's there in round 4, round 5, I get that. That's okay. Maybe even not even round 4, like, okay. But at 33, no, not interested. What I'm also 100%, like not even remotely close to interested in, is Jalen Green with a ranking of 35, which does fall in to round 3 for points leagues. So again, we're losing 12-team defaults. Jalen had an incredible hot streak last season in March or April or whatever it was. It was March. He ranked 91st last season, averaging 30.91 ESPN fantasy points. They drafted another guard. There is a full season of Amen Thompson to maybe get more minutes. Jalen played 32 minutes with 27 usage. Does he become a 47% shooter? Does he play 35 minutes? Does he become a 25-point scorer? There is no upside whatsoever in Jalen Green in this spot. None. You cannot find upside here. This is one of the ones where, like, I talked about it before. You want to take De'Aaron Fox in round 3? Go for it, fine. You want to take Devin Booker? Go for it. I'm not saying that those guys are not round 3 guys. It's about the value in the right spot and blah, blah, blah. This one, there's nothing. No way. Can't justify it. Can't get behind it. Don't understand it at all. Maybe he has an out-of-the-blue complete explosion. I just don't want to be involved in that from a drafting perspective. We'll get in and we'll talk about round 4. The guys there that I think are worth avoiding or at least considering, do I really want to do this? Maybe that's the idea of this show. It's not like, avoid, must avoid, do not draft. It's more like, is this the best? Is this a good option? Is it going to work out more times than not? And I think that's generally the way that I approach looking at these things, is like, will it work? Could it work? Maybe. Is it likely to? Probably not. And that brings me again to Paolo Banchero, who we did just talk about for ESPN for category leagues, where he was ranked at 33. And on Yahoo, he's ranked at 39. So I do think there are ways that Paolo can be that level of player. My projections don't love it. I'm not expecting him to be in this area necessarily, but I can also see a justification at that point. Like, I need points, rebounds, and assists. He brings it. I don't really want to rely on Julius Randle or Kyle Kuzma, who they're very similar players. Banchero way better. I just think at that spot at 39, I don't really see how we're getting better than that. And I would say that the balance of probability suggests that it doesn't work out. You could do it. And you can build a team around him in that spot and have significant success. It is possible. In that range of players, their rankings from, what rank? From 37 through to 48. Paolo at number 39 stood out as one that I just didn't want to do. For points leagues, Derek White is ranked 42nd. Well, it's for all leagues on Yahoo. Derek White is ranked 42nd. And as much as we all might like Derek White, I don't really think 42 is going to be the spot that we want to do it. Last season, in what a lot of it was best case stuff. Great block numbers. He had higher usage than we thought. And he was 68th. And yeah, Porzingis is not going to be there to begin the season. So that does help him. But again, like, what is the likelihood of Derek White, ranked 42, taking in round 4, making sense in a points league? I don't think there's really any likelihood of that. I don't think that's going to happen. You know that I'm down on Nikola Vucevic. I think he's bad as a real-life player. I think there's a chance he is traded or at least put into a semi-minute split. Not a full-minute split with Jalen Smith, but a semi-minute split. I'm not swayed by the argument that DeRozan is gone, so therefore everything goes up, because Giddey and Levine are in the mix too. So that's like maybe even a net negative in terms of how much he touches it. If you're in the 60s and you're looking for some rebounds with some scoring, like, that's okay. You're in the 70s, go for it. But ESPN's category league has Vooch ranked 47th. And I'm not going to do it. I was out on Vooch hard last season and was spot on with that. And I actually think he drops off and becomes worse this season. So I'm not going to look at him and think, well, yeah, he's going to be better than he was the year before. I don't buy that array or that arrangement in Chicago of that being the way they're going to run things. His teammate also, I think, is inappropriately positioned on ESPN for their points leagues, and that is Kobe White. Kobe was, again, a really strong target of mine last season. You could get him at 120, 110, 130. And you know, the rule that I looked at, hey, starting point guard with high usage, I'm in, let's see what happens. But now look at the size of this adjustment. He's ranked 45th, Kobe White. Kobe White last season on ESPN points, where would you think he ranked per game? 71st is the answer. And we could again make the argument DeRozan is gone. And then I could also tell you that, well, Giddey is there and Levine is there and Lonzo Ball is allegedly playing. And if Giddey is there, does that mean that Kobe is off ball more? And I think probably yes. Or at least I can't come in and say Kobe White is doing more on ball because DeRozan is gone, but Levine, Giddey, Ball are there. Now, Levine might be gone, that's true. But he needs a leap from last season, Kobe, to get to this spot. And I'm not really sure that happens. I mean, it could. But that's not one that I'd want to bank on. The 5th round, we're talking picks 49 through to 60 in a 12-team format. So what do I like? What don't I like? I don't like Miles Bridges here. You can do whatever you want morally, however you feel about him as a person, and whether that should impact your ideas about drafting him. I don't care. That's not my decision for you to make. That's your own issue, whatever you want to do. I just don't think he's good enough in a category league to be ranked 54th. There is a chance that he is the 3rd offensive option behind Ball and Miller. Honestly, how good's Tijan Salam playing? He won't take his minutes, but 54 is a very high number for Miles, who played 1 million minutes last season. He played 37 minutes a night under Steve Clifford. I don't know the way that Charles Lee is going to deploy that rotation, but I'll be very, very surprised if Bridges is playing 37 a night. I'll be very surprised if he leads the team in usage, which he did when LaMelo Ball was gone. I don't think those things are happening. And the argument could be made that he fits better with LaMelo, and that is 100% true. You could say that if his usage drops, his efficiency will rise and he'll do more defensively. But I've seen a lot of things over the course of doing this show and in this job of us expecting that to happen, and it doesn't. While in theory it all makes sense, it doesn't necessarily work that way. So I'm just not willing to take him at 54. I'm also not taking Jalen Duren, the passport legend, at 52 in a points league. Even in category leagues, Duren does fall a little bit. He's around 55, 56 in those leagues, but Jalen last season put his numbers up. A new coach there as well in JB Bickerstaff, who does like to go tighter on the rotations. He played 29 minutes a night, Duren. He averaged 13 and almost 12, 13 and a half and 11 and a half. Doesn't get defensive stats, but his percentage is good. That does not matter in a points league. He ranked 67th in Yahoo points leagues last season. That's not that far off from here. It's not. I also think JB Bickerstaff's going to slow the pace down. So that impacts him. And, like I've said, I don't know how they do this. But if Duren plays 29 minutes a night, does that mean that Isaiah Stewart plays 19 minutes a night? Will they want Stewart shooting out there for 22? Because if they do, that means Duren plays 26. That's not good. And maybe Stewart does just play 18 a night. I don't see a pathway for Duren to be a 32, 33, 34 minute player. So I just think at that spot, it's just not worth the investment. As I'm recording this, Dante DiVincenzo is trash talking the Knicks bench. This is what happens if you let me run the show. Blah, blah, blah. We're hearing it from him all the time. That's great. Good for him. Talk whatever you need to say. Say whatever you need to say. Him with a category ranking on ESPN of 57 has, I would say, no chance of coming true. But even if it does, there is no value in that. There's no way it's getting better than that, surely. These preseason games, Conley isn't playing. Randall isn't playing. Edwards has sat out some of them. And while DiVincenzo's on a massive hot streak, he's hitting shots. He's a really, really good player. Getting to 57, how? How are we doing that? What is he doing to get himself to that position? I can't see how that works out. For ESPN points leagues, Jonas Valanciunas comes in at a very robust ranking of 53. All right. They started Alex Sarr at center last game in preseason. I don't think that's what they'll do, but we also look at this and go, is Valanciunas actually sticking around all season? Will he actually stay as a starter all season? I think he will for a chunk of the year. But that doesn't mean 31 minutes a night. It means more than he played in New Orleans. I'm good with saying that. But Valanciunas last season, he played 23 minutes a night. Valanciunas last season was... What was he in ESPN points leagues? You'll be interested to know he's 120th. Big step forward to get to 53rd. And almost no way of that even coming close to returning value. In the 6th round, so we're now talking picks 61 through to 72. In Yahoo, there's one guy for category leagues and points leagues that I'm just not going to take at this spot. And it's not because I don't like the player. I really liked him as a rookie. I've liked him for a very long time as a contributor. But Devin Vassell is not going to be ready to begin the season. He had surgery on his foot. Not a great sign. Not a great sign. He is allegedly getting reevaluated November 1. So no matter what we see with him doing work, it's good. It's good. He might get evaluated November 1. They say he's ready to return November 4. But I would expect, given it is the Spurs and how they treat these guys, he will be slow played. He will probably come off the bench. He will be on limited minutes. He will miss some back-to-backs. And he's ranked at 70. So for category leagues and for points leagues, I don't see that being something that makes sense. Last season, Vassell was 73rd in points leagues. 73rd in points leagues. What do we think is actually happening with his production this season? Yes, yeah, Wembanyama probably does more. There is other players there in terms of Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul with the ball in their hands. Vassell, I think, needs to be their second best scorer. But last season, -1 ranks, he was 75th. So, and every mock draft I do, no one is taking into consideration The fact that he's not there to start the season, and it's a lower body injury, and it might be a slow ramp up. They're just taking him right at this spot. And I wouldn't. I like Vassell. I'd take him in the 80 in round 7. I'd take him there. I wouldn't do it here. This one is the one that I can't get behind at all. Why is Buddy Hield ranked at 65 for ESPN in points leagues? That is just a very, very different view of how the Warriors will run things. To me, Hield, to get to this number, needs to play 33 minutes a night, needs to be quite a high usage player because he doesn't do rebounds or assists or steals or blocks. He doesn't get to the line. He shoots threes, and he does it efficiently. But taking him at 65 is crazy. This man was out of the rotation in Philadelphia. This guy was benched for Andrew Nembhard. First he was benched for Benedict Mathurin, then for Andrew Nembhard. He played 26 minutes a night with 19 usage, averaging 12 points with 2.6 threes. And the Warriors, they might not start him. Moses Moody started the last game. D'Anthony Melton started a game. Brandon Pajemski started a game. Hield started a game. Regardless of what you think of those players, of who you think is the better guy and who's going to start, the fact that there's 4 different options to play there suggests he's not touching 32, 33 minutes, meaning to me that he's got no way of hitting 65th in category league ranking. I don't know how that would work. I also don't want to pick Drew Holiday at number 67. Drew is, like all of us, another year older, but it's more important when you're 30. How old is old mate Drew? He is 33. When you're 33, being another year older than what you were last season, it's not a good thing. Drew Holiday, last season, was 79th in per game value on ESPN points leagues. He's ranked 67th. And yes, there is no Kristaps Porzingis to begin the season. True. We're in round 5, 6, 7, 8. We want to get somebody who we look at and go, yep, we can actually get to rounds 24, 25 spots of value here. That would work very well, especially in a points league where you don't worry about a build. You don't worry about how it fits in a punt and blah, blah. You don't worry about any of that stuff. You just look at a guy and go, if I take him here, will he at least give me this number? But does he have room to jump me an extra 5 points on top of it? I don't see how Drew could possibly do that. Meaning, it's a do not draft. Yeah. In round 7, there are some just weird rankings sprinkled around. But as always, maybe I'm the weird one for not having that evaluation. Maybe they are spot on. Possible. But I'm just here to tell you my thoughts. If I'm on Yahoo and I'm sitting in round 7 and it's a category league or it's a points league, I'm not drafting the poop cookie Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. gets by when he's traditional 9-cat rank by not getting any turnovers. He's ranked at 82 for category leagues and, of course, for points leagues too, because that's how Yahoo runs things. But what are we looking at for him to do? Last season, in a points league, he averaged under 30 fantasy points per game. He played 32 minutes a night, and he was 90th. So 82 and 90, not that different. I actually don't like. And okay, the other thing I'll throw in with Porter is, yeah, like he was healthy, but do you trust he's back? I don't. I don't trust him injury-wise at all, because that is an ongoing multiple surgery thing on a back. So that is one of the ones where I'm going to have less trust in that. In a category league, yeah, like you can fool yourself straight 9-cat. Fool yourself's probably a harsh term, but you can look at it and go, well, you know, he was 60th in this league, and remember 2 years ago he was getting drafted in the 20s, and yeah, look, I actually made that mistake to have him in that 25 to 30 zone 3 years ago, but the reason I had him there is because Jamal Murray was out for the season, and I thought Porter would be the second usage player, and then he shot 10% from 3 and got hurt after 6 games, so that went completely wrong, but he's not the second option on offense, he's the third option, and when Russell Westbrook's on the court, he's not going to be higher than Westbrook in the pecking order. And I don't care that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has left, because Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was a 12% usage player. So the guy that takes the minutes from KCP will probably be Christian Brown, who'll probably have 12% or 13% usage anyway. Or when it's Westbrook taking those minutes, well, he'll have 23 or 24 or, God forbid, 27. So I just don't think there is any value in Michael Porter at that position. I don't think it makes sense to get him in points leagues or category leagues in round 7. On ESPN, where it's wild stuff here, because PJ Washington has now got a full season in Dallas. That is true. He's ranked 78th. It's like 78th. Okay. So look, what are we doing? Last season, he was 139th. He was the starting power forward for the Hornets and for the Mavericks. Is it a better ecosystem in Charlotte? Sure. In Dallas? Sure. He played 30 minutes a night with 19% usage. He averaged 13 points and 5.5 rebounds, PJ did. But you want to talk about pecking order? Luka, Kyrie, Clay. So PJ's fourth on offense. He's wildly inconsistent with his shooting. He gets some blocks. He doesn't pass. He's not a super strong rebounder. 76. He's round 7. Or 78, sorry. He's round 7. How? How does this possibly get beaten? How does he possibly provide that value? I don't understand it. And then, of course, we go back to the Buddy Hield one. He's ranked 77th on points league. So his category rank and his points league rank is way too high. Now, to me. But this is that very clear one. They, at ESPN, doing those rankings, think that Buddy is going to play 33 minutes a night as a starter. And I, useless loser sitting over here in Australia, do not think that. And that's the difference. So I would not touch Buddy Hield in these spots. I would also not draft him. Let's talk about round 8. Who are the guys that I am not getting around in this area? On Yahoo, so round 8 takes us up to that's 85 to 96. A couple of weeks ago, I probably wouldn't have had Jabari Smith here on this list. I would have said, that's okay, let's look at him in the 80s, 90s, I'm okay with that. But I haven't really seen any sort of growth from him in the preseason. There's Whitmore, there's Eason, there's Adams who's playing backup center, there's all the guards who can push up as well. What was it, Jabari? What's he doing here? He's ranked at 93. Again, not super strong against this one. 93 is okay. But he played 32 minutes already last season. He had 18 usage. Does that go up? Does he become a steals and blocks guy like he was at Auburn? Well, 2 years in the NBA suggests probably not. His shooting can probably go up. That's true. Again, this one, not super outrageous. I think it's okay in round 8 for Jabari Smith. I likely wouldn't do it. I would probably leave it till round 10. But if you wanted to do it, you want to do it. Alex Caruso is a clear victim of way too high testosterone, obviously, but also having a Yahoo ranking that is non-specific. Because he's ranked at 89th, which in a category league, fine. What the hell? Who cares? That's unbelievably solid. It's great. He was 129th in points leagues last season, and not super certain he's going to do more usage-wise for OKC versus Chicago. So you take him you drafting in the Yahoo points league, and Caruso pops up at the top of the board at 89. You're in round 8, and you take him. Well, that is a bad move. And you probably are going to have to regret a lot of your life decisions after that. The same thing goes for regretting life decisions with drafting Grayson Allen. And again, I'll put all my cards out on the table here. This is just likely a difference of evaluation of a rotation. Because ESPN has Grayson Allen somehow ranked the same in category leagues and points leagues at number 89. If Tyus Jones is starting, and he is, this is the man that goes to the bench. He played 34 minutes a night last season, Grayson Allen. Really hard to play 34 minutes a night as a bench player, considering you played 34 minutes a night as the start of the year before, and your new coach loves to pull people's minutes back. Allen also shot 46% from 3, a number which I don't think has any shot of sustaining. So, was Grayson Allen worth the 89th pick in a category league last season? A straight 9-cat rank will tell you that he was. Again, do you believe that CJ McCollum and Trae Young had the same impact last season? If so, good for you. Grayson Allen on a strict 9-cat ranking was better than 89. According to my -1 rankings, he was 98th. So I'm obviously looking at him in a worse spot this year and just not doing it at 89. For a points league, he was 106th last season. I see absolutely zero pathway for Grayson Allen being better than he was last season for ESPN points. I don't know how that would occur. It might. There are certain things that I cannot foresee. And I can squint and I can adjust and I can go back and look at it. Am I wrong? No, it's the children who are out of touch. I can look at those things But I can't get there. I can't get to him at 89 in a points league. I can't do that. I don't know how to work that out. So therefore, don't pick Grayson Allen in round 8 unless you want to be wrong. Maybe. We're at round 9. We're getting towards the area where taking flyers is okay. I think the end of round 10 is probably more into that area. And obviously 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever. That's more interesting. But round 9 still has a level of, hey, let's make sure we're doing the right thing here. Pick 97 through to pick 108. And the Yahoo rank just has not been updated with John Collins. He sits there at number 101. And I believe, I don't know this for sure, but I believe it's fairly clear that he will come off the bench for Utah. And he will come off the bench behind, however you want to phrase it, Taylor Hendricks or Walker Kessler. And John Collins, I think we're all well aware of this. John Collins is not going to be in the future plans of the Utah Jazz. There'd be no reason for him to do that. Last season, he had a bad start to the season, became the starting center and put up good numbers, but he's also a bad defender. He was 92nd in -1 last season. So 101, you think, okay, well, I can work with that. I just don't think he's playing that much. I think he is a reserve now, Johnny. So I'm not taking him there. And Herb Jones comes in here for the Points League one on Yahoo, ranked at 99. And that is just purely because of the dual ranking system that they have. We have heard that the Pelicans are going to be starting Herb Jones at center. I think that's largely because Zion doesn't want to say that he's a center. And we know that star players get that preference. Herb is not going to be out there all the time mixing it up with Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic. Who knows if they even use that starting lineup every game. But what we know is that Herb, and this doesn't actually change much about my Herb evaluation. Maybe a slight bump to rebounds, maybe a slight bump to field goal, but he already was shooting like some insane percentages last season, like 87 from the line and 50 from the field. He is a steals and blocks guy, which for a fantasy points league had him at 146th last season. So at 99, well, you're killing your team. You're killing it. I am all for taking shots at guys to see what we can get. Reed Shepherd ranks 97 on ESPN for a category league. I like Reed Shepherd. I didn't have him as the top prospect in the draft. I had him third. I may have moved him to second eventually at the right before the draft, but I think I still had him third. I like what I saw. But he doesn't go he goes at pick 3, but he doesn't walk onto a bad team. He doesn't walk onto a situation where he plays 30 minutes a night. It's not there. He is a point guard. He is a rookie point guard. He is a rookie point guard on a team that wants to make the playoffs. And I don't know how he gets to here. Great steals and blocks in college. Unbelievable three-point shooting. I think a lot of that can translate. I am not burning a round 9 pick on a rookie backup point guard who, if Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet start and then Amen Thompson's the first guard off the bench, this man is the 4th guard on this team. And he's ranked at 97. That, I believe, is throwing away value. ESPN also, at this point, has not updated the points league rankings because Malcolm Brogdon is out for months. Thumb surgery. Does he even play a single game for the Wizards after this? Does he get traded in a dump or whatever? I thought there was a chance that Brogdon would get 29 minutes out of the shoot. He would play the first couple of months. He'd keep them sort of steady. And then they'd move on. He'd get benched. He'd get hurt, whatever. But the fact that he's not going to be there to start the season, I do not think that 2 months in, they'll go, all right, Brogdon's back. Carrington, we love what we saw from you, Bubby. Back to 14 minutes. Jordan Poole, you're doing some stuff as the starting point guard, but can you just sort of give the ball over to Malcolm Brogdon now? I don't see how any of that stuff would happen. Again, ESPN probably just hasn't updated this rank since the injury news. Although I will say this. I don't know what he was doing ranked at 104 before the injury news. Malcolm Brogdon. Thought he was an interesting later round pick. 104 really isn't a later round pick, is it? Last season in ESPN points leagues, to be fair to them, he averaged 31 fantasy points in the 30 games that he played. That's 89th. Reasonable. But now there's too much uncertainty, too much surety that he's not going to be there in fantasy playoffs. And now he's hurt to begin the year. Don't like it, can't do it, no thanks. Now we're in round 10. Again, the closer we get to flyer territory. So I'm not going to be super harsh on most of these ones. Maybe I will. Because we get into the, we'll see what happens territory. I just don't love drafting Bobby Portis to be one of my starters. Bobby is ranked on ESPN at 115. He still is a backup. He is a no defense player. He will get opportunities when Lopez and Giannis sit. True. He scores. He hits threes. He gets rebounds. He does it in bulk. He played 24 minutes a night last season. But that's because he started. There were games, plenty of them, especially with Taurean Prince there now as well, where he might literally just be the backup center and that is it. And Doc Rivers, in his infinite wisdom, was playing Brook Lopez 33, 32 minutes a night. So what if Portis gets like 19, which was what was happening? Portis wasn't playing big minutes last season until he got the chance to start. It wasn't like the Budenholzer time when Portis would get, they would have no one else. It'd be Giannis and Lopez, and Portis would get every minute basically playing the 4 and the 5 behind those guys, every minute. That didn't happen last season. We got Pat Connaughton. We got Jay Crowder at the 4. We did not get Portis playing those minutes. So I'm not willing to get in here on Bob and get like super excited about him at 115. In a points league, Yahoo, the overall rank, Tyus Jones is ranked at 113. Tyus Jones is going to be a starter in Phoenix, but starter is a very easy term to throw out there. Does that mean that he plays 32 minutes a night? Does it mean that he just starts games and doesn't close them? I'm not sure. Last season in Washington, he was the starting point guard. He was 96th in Yahoo points leagues, which obviously, with a rank of 113, maybe he does that. But there's a difference between playing with Kuzma and Poole versus playing with Beal, Booker, and Durant. And having the fact that Grayson Allen or Royce O'Neal or Ryan Dunn could be called on to actually take your playing time down the stretch. They could just give the ball to Beal or Booker if you're not required. So I don't think the minutes upside is there. I don't think the minutes floor is secure, and the touches are probably going to be less. So I don't want to do that at 113, which would be a starting position on my squad. Jaime Jaquez is ranked at 114 on ESPN for category leagues. Jaquez started last season when the Heat were out with Hero, Butler was out, Josh Richardson was out, somebody else was out as well. He played a lot of minutes, he shot unbelievably above his head from what he'd done in college, and he looked really good. And then they came back, and predictably, he disappeared and he wasn't useful at all. He has some good moments at times. He has had some good moments. He ranked 182nd in category league value last season. He's ranked at 114, Jaime Jaquez on ESPN, meaning, again, if you're playing a 12-team league, that is a starter if you pick him there. And I don't think he's starting. I don't think he's starting for the Heat. I think he comes off the bench. And yeah, like if Rozier misses and Hero misses and Butler misses, well, Duncan Robinson gets chances too. But if, let's say, Butler's out, like you can look at Jaquez. I'd just rather do it 20 spots later. And the last name we're going to talk about is, again, Reed Sheppard, because he's ranked at 113th for ESPN points leagues. 113th. By the way, instead of Reed Sheppard at 97, Steph Castle's ranked at 104. I don't know that Castle starts for the Spurs. I think his fantasy game may not be super strong. And I definitely would not touch him in that area. So Reed Sheppard for points leagues. Like, okay, I obviously can't tell you what his numbers were from last season, but maybe like he's a 24-point player. I've got him as like a 21-point player. That's not enough to consider a starter in a points league, which is what 113th would tell you. And that's it. That is 10 rounds, 4 players, different formats, 40 different guys. In fact, that's not true because there's some double ups. But guys that I just think are not worth what that value is. Your draft might be different. Your league might go off ADP. Your league might go off rank. I don't know. And frankly, I don't care because I can't judge everyone's individual league and how it all works. But just know that when you go into a draft room, these orders are positioned this way. And the guys that I mentioned disagree as much as you want. That is cool as well. We can have differing opinions and differing builds and differing setups and differing valuations. All that stuff is accurate. These are just the guys that at these spots, I don't think it would be a wise move to pick them at that area. Hopefully, that's not too controversial. If you have a humiliation kink, well, let's do that. Let's give off a more aggressive term. You ready? If you pick these players, you are absolutely embarrassing, not only to me, but your family, your kids, your partner. I've never seen anyone make worse decisions than what you did by picking these players. You deserve to come last. In fact, if you were in my league, I'd kick you out. Guys, hit the thumb up on this video. Like it. Operation 75K. Operation 100K. Yes, I can do all those things with a straight face. Guys, we're done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.